How's it going? It's Sean Bradshaw from cyberfret.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you kind of a quick little dominant seventh lick, and it can be used in a lot of different styles, so it's not pigeonholed into that kind of groove I was just playing. So you can play it in a jazz context, a blues context, a lot of places where you just have a dominant seventh chord, because it's a fairly simple lick. So let's take a look first at what's going on. It's the same lick. In the intro, I was just playing the same lick over two different chords, an E7 chord and then an A7 chord. So for the E7 chord, here's the lick. All right, so what I'm doing is starting off with a double pull-off. I'm pulling off from the 5th fret of the 2nd string to the 4th fret to the 3rd fret. All right, so I kind of want to have all three of those fingers down to start with. Just pull my 3rd finger off to my 2nd, and then 2nd off to the 1st. Okay, and that's kind of the key thing of this lick, is built around this idea of this note right here is the E. The 5th fret on the 2nd string is an E note. I said this lick is for a dominant 7th chord, and this is for an E7 chord. And so I have the E, and then I'm just going a little chromatic passing down to the D note, which is what's called the flat 7, if you know anything about music theory. And that's what makes up the dominant 7th chord, is we have a 1, 3, 5, and what's called a flat 7. Basically, if I played an E major scale, played 7 notes up in the scale, but took that 7th note and lowered it down by a half step, that's what's called a flat 7. So playing the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and that flat 7 is what makes a dominant 7th chord, in that case an E7. But basically the idea is we've got this chromatic passing between the E down to the D, and using those pull-offs. Then I come down here to the 3rd string at the 4th fret, which happens to be the 5th of the chord. All right, so those 3 notes right there are just part of the dominant 7th chord. Then I come back to that flat 7, back to the 1. Then I do I'm going to do a hammer-on from the 3rd fret on the 1st string up to the 4th fret. And that note on the 4th fret of the 1st string is the 3rd of the chord of the E7 chord. And this we just kind of think of as a passing note up to, or an approach note up to this 3. All right, that note right there is what's referred to as a flat 3. Again, don't worry about this if you don't know much about theory, but I'm thrown out there for those that do know a little bit about it. All right, so flat 3 going up to the 3rd of the chord. And then I'm just going, again, back down from the 1 to the flat 7. And you most certainly can play around with a rhythm. It's not set in stone exactly the rhythms that I'm playing there. And in fact, in different kind of feels, you'll find that they may lend themselves to some different rhythms that come to mind as you're jamming. But for this particular background, that kind of rhythm fits nicely. And so the whole thing is really just made up of mostly the E7 chord. All right, so I have my E here, which is 1. That's your 3. That was flat 7. And that one is the 5. And I just had the only notes that are not in the E7 chord is that one note that's on the 4th fret of the 2nd string, which was just a passing note between notes that were in the E7 chord, and also that note that was on the 3rd fret of the 1st string that led up to the note that was. So only two notes are not, but they're really kind of embellishments of the notes that are in that E7 chord. All right, and so then in this jam track I've got for you, it's going between an E7 chord and an A7. So for the A7 part, all I need to do is move up to where my third finger is playing an A note, and that's going to be at the 10th fret on the second string. So in order to move this around and play it over really any dominant 7th chord, you just need to find the root note that you want on the second string, because that's first note that you play is going to be the root. And you basically just do the same thing there, just starting at that 10th fret on the second string. All right, so have fun with your new dominant 7th lick. Try it out over this jam track. You can kind of riff out on a lot of different things where you're just playing really an E minor pentatonic scale if you're kind of familiar with a basic E minor pentatonic scale, and then also experiment around with throwing these two licks in when you're specifically over the E7 chord and then over the A7 chord. Have a good one.